It began with a box. A small, faded box, tied with ribbon the color of old blood. When Emily Carter opened it, she didn't expect to find a child staring back. Or at least, something shaped like one. The doll inside was about 12 inches tall, made of porcelain so pale it almost glowed blue in the afternoon light. Its glass eyes were the strange kind, that grayish-green shade that seems to change when you move. And its mouth, tiny, painted, smiling just enough to feel like it knew something. It had a tag around its neck, written in a spidery hand. For Clara, to remember. Emily had found it at an estate auction in Harrowfield, a town where the rain never quite stops, and every street looks like it's been slightly forgotten. She wasn't looking for anything in particular that day. She just liked collecting old things. They had stories, even if no one remembered them. She should have left that box closed. The house she lived in was an early Victorian. Uneven floors, creaky stairs, wallpaper that bubbled where the damp got in. She rented it cheap because, as the landlord said, some people don't stay long. She thought he meant the plumbing was bad. That evening, she placed the doll on the mantelpiece in her living room, right between an old clock and a vase of dried lavender. She lit a candle, turned on her little Bluetooth speaker, and let quiet jazz fill the space. Normal. Completely normal. But around midnight, something shifted. Not a sound, not exactly, more like a sense. That soft, crawling weight of being watched. Emily had been dozing on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, when she opened her eyes and noticed the candle had burned itself almost out. Only one tiny flame remained, a low orange glow that made the doll's face flicker and shadow. Its eyes seemed to catch the light. Or maybe they made it. She sat up, blinked, and frowned. She could have sworn she'd left the doll's head tilted slightly to the left. Now it was turned straight, looking right at her. She laughed at herself because that's what you do when your body says run, but your brain refuses to believe it. She got up, adjusted the doll back to its side pose, and blew out the candle. The next morning, the doll was facing forward again. Days passed quietly enough after that. The doll stayed on the mantel. Sometimes when Emily walked past, she'd think the air was a little colder around it, but maybe that was just the draft from the chimney. It wasn't until Friday night that she noticed something truly strange. She had been sorting through old photographs from the auction, most of them yellowed portraits of women in heavy dresses and men with impossible mustaches. In one, a little girl stood between two adults, clutching a small doll to her chest. Emily froze. It was the same doll, the same painted mouth, the same ribbon, even the same chipped left ear. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a date, 1874, and one word, Clara, the same name as on the tag. She set the photo down, staring at the mantel. The doll's head was angled down now, as if shy, or listening. She laughed again, that nervous, hollow laugh people use when they're alone. "Okay, Clara," she said softly. "You're an old one. Guess you've seen a lot." For a moment, she thought she saw the doll's lips move. Just a twitch, a trick of the light. But her skin prickled all the same. That night, she dreamed in sepia. A little girl stood in a narrow hallway. Her dress was white, stiff with lace. She was holding something, a doll, of course, whispering to it. Not words Emily could hear, but a kind of rhythm, like a lullaby turned backward. And when the girl turned, her eyes weren't eyes at all, just dark, round holes reflecting a tiny porcelain face. Emily woke up gasping. The sound of the clock downstairs was deafening. Tick, tick, tick. She went down for water, bare feet silent against cold wood. Halfway down the stairs, she paused. The living room light was on, and the doll wasn't on the mantel anymore. It was sitting in the armchair, the same one Emily had been sleeping in a few nights before, hands folded neatly in its lap, facing the stairs. She didn't scream, she just froze there, caught between disbelief and logic. She tried to convince herself she'd moved it and forgotten. Sleepwalking, maybe? She'd done that once, years ago. She walked over slowly, heart pounding, and picked the doll up. Its head lolled slightly to one side, almost tenderly. She felt stupidly sorry for it. When she set it back on the mantel, though, something cold brushed her hand, like a draft, but sharper. And then came the whisper. Not from the air, from inside the doll. A voice, high and broken, like a record warped with age. "Where's Mother?" Emily stumbled backward, heart in her throat. The whisper had been so soft she almost thought she'd imagined it. She stood there for a full minute staring at the doll. It just sat there, blank and harmless again. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. By the next morning, she had almost convinced herself she was just overtired. She'd been working too much, drinking too much coffee, spending too long in that cold old house. She decided to do something practical. Research. At the town library, she searched for the name Clara from the photo. It took hours before she found anything buried in an old local newspaper archive. Harrowfield Gazette, February 1875. Tragic death of a child. The daughter of Dr. Edmund Whitby, Miss Clara Whitby, aged 6, passed away in her sleep. Family sources say the child had been unwell for some weeks. Her favorite possession, a porcelain doll gifted by her father, was buried with her at her request. Emily stared at the page. Buried. With her. She went home in silence. That evening, she didn't turn on the light. She just sat on the couch, staring at the mantel in the dim glow of dusk. The doll sat there, still and perfect. And yet, in the half-dark, it seemed to breathe. When the clock struck 9, the air in the room shifted again, thicker, heavier. The faint smell of dust and lilac filled the air, like the inside of a closed casket. Then came that tiny voice again. "Where's Mother?" Emily's lips trembled. "Clara?" she whispered. Silence. Then, almost gently, the doll's head turned toward her. The sound it made wasn't mechanical. It was the soft crack of something old, something stiff, moving for the first time in a century. Its glass eyes caught the light of the street lamp outside, and Emily finally realized what the tag around its neck really meant. For Clara, to remember. It wasn't a dedication. It was a warning.